So, aloha. Okay. Aloha. Over 3 years ago, I made a choice that could have changed my course and affected my family in a way they may never have understood. My name is Melanie, and I'm a suicide attempt survivor. In my life, I've worn many hats: sister, daughter, soldier, mom, wife, auntie, and realtor, and I'm proud of them all. But the one hat that never fit right was attempt survivor. The word suicide itself makes people feel uncomfortable. They don't always know what to say. It's a part of my life, and I don't always know what to say. That began to change when I met my friend Carrie. She had mentioned she was going to coordinate an Out of the Darkness walk on Oahu in her stepson's honor. When I met her, I knew we were meant to be friends. I felt an instant connection to her. We don't always know why people come into our lives, but Carrie's reason revealed itself quickly. What I didn't know is how much her friendship would help right the compass in my life. While stationed at Fort Hood, Texas in March 2011, after years of struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts, I'd had enough. Between my husband's 5 deployments, my then teenage son out of control, and the loss of my sister to cancer, I felt overwhelmed by the weight of my circumstances. I vaguely recall the events of that night: the ride in the ambulance, the emergency room, the guards posted outside my door. What I do recall was the sadness on my husband's face and the guilt and shame I felt for what I had done. Those feelings stayed with me for years. A handful of people knew my story and my pain: my husband and son, my niece who's like my daughter, my cousin and best friend. After that night, I spent time with a therapist and spoke about relational issues I had with my mom and how I'd heard threats of suicide from her my whole life. These threats were so familiar to me that it became a way to handle difficult situations. I tried to work through those issues, but I didn't realize how much more. I tried to work through those issues, but I didn't realize how much more work was still needed. Although I shared some of the pains and reasons why I felt like I did, I couldn't open up and say the word suicide out loud or fathom forgiving myself for what I had done. In the years before that night, one of my most difficult tasks was putting on a brave face, but I felt I had to. My sister had bravely fought throughout her ordeal with esophageal cancer, and my husband had deployed 5 times to a combat zone, and I was too stubborn to show weakness. They say hindsight is 20/20, and if I knew then what I know now, I would have spoken up and been honest about how depressed and dark I was feeling. Volunteering to help with the walk last year was a turning point in my life. Before the walk, the thought of breaking my silence and sharing my story was frightening. I knew to move forward, I had to purge the details of that night. For me, it was important to remove the albatross on my heart that I knew was holding me back. When I shared the accounts of that night with Carrie and her husband Boz, it was the beginning of a healing process. In opening up, I felt more free. Last year at the walk, I was nervous, but with Carrie by my side, I went up to the tent and found the strength to put the green beads around my neck, making my first public declaration that I struggle personally. I wear a green bracelets necklace every day to remind myself of those beads and to be brave. That evening, I rode with Melissa to a post-walk dinner for the committee members and shared my story with her. She showed compassion and told me that sharing my story could help other people. I had spent years afraid to share my secrets for fear people would look at me in horror. I can say that has never happened, not once. Each time I share my story in person or online, I forgive myself a little more. In the recent months since I've shared my story, I've had friends reach out to me and let me know they have lost someone to suicide, they have struggled personally, or have had children that have struggled. In the words of T.S. Eliot, survival is your strength, not your shame. In so many areas of life, we are not given a second chance, but I feel like I have been given one. I'm also fortunate to have an amazing spouse who never gave up on me, even in the years that followed when I wanted to give up on myself. I have been married to Doug for 11 years and have known him for over 20. No one knows me as well as he does, and he still didn't know how depressed I'd become. I know the years leading up to that night had highs and lows, and the last 3 years have been a roller coaster that at times felt like it was going off its tracks. The words thank you cannot even touch the depth of gratitude I have. Doug, thank you for never giving up on me and loving me unconditionally. I have other family like my son Seth and my niece who never gave up on me and continue to love me. Thank you both. I love you to the moon and back. I am grateful for the friendships I have made through this walk and those who knew me before and have supported me throughout this process. I am lucky to have each one of them in my life. The walk last year changed me for the better. I am a work in progress, and every day I make an effort to forgive myself for what I did. But that doesn't come overnight. It takes work. These events, these walks, a coming together of one community, one Ohana, that share a common thread is where healing can begin. In July, we learned of the loss of my son's friend Kevin, and I was reminded why these walks and this organization are so important. I've learned a great deal about human nature and myself over the last year. People are more understanding than we realize, and although I used to put on a brave face just to get through the day, the one before you now doesn't need a mask because I am now who I was meant to be. We are all connected by invisible threads of suicide and mental illness. I learned this when I was brave enough to open up and share my story. As I stand before you with paradise all around me, I am grateful to be here. Just having celebrated my 44th birthday, and I have a 3-month-old grandson, Reed, a good life full of friends and family who love and accept me, flaws and all. I am forever grateful that my husband is here with me today. It lets me know that I am not alone. He never gave up on me. One of my favorite writers, Augustine Burroughs, said, I myself am made entirely of flaws, stitched together with good intentions. And that quote sums me up. In closing, my hope is that you will know this is a safe place, a place of hope, a place where healing can begin. It did for me because I was ready. When you are ready to share your story, be bold and know that someone out there will help you or will get help from your story. Last year, my attempt survivor hat didn't fit so well, but this year I'm learning I don't have to wear that hat full time, but when I do on a day like today, I am brave and unashamed. Mahalo.